This is the Lutheran Education Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where we explore issues, trends, and events surrounding Christian education with your hosts, Richard Schumacher, Senior Director of Operations at LSEM, and Dr. Tracy Salgado, Director of Special Education at LSEM.
Welcome to the Lutheran Education Podcast, brought to you by Lutheran Special Education Ministries. I am so glad that you decided to take the time, click on this, and give us a listen. I am your host for this episode. My name is Richard Schumacher. I'm Senior Director of Operations for LSEM, and we are excited to have the boss on for this episode of the podcast. Stacy McGhee, she is the President, CEO of Lutheran Special Education Ministries, and a regular contributor to the podcast. Stacy, thank you so much for the time. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity that you give me and Tracy Salgado to be able to do these podcasts, as part of what we do at LSEM. So always happy to bring you on or to come ask if we can get an hour of your time to be able to do this. So again, thank you. Appreciate that. So as we get started, let me just ask you this. Um, What's it like? Yeah, I think this is your first time on that we've had you as the exclusive guest since you became a grandma of all things. So let's start there. I mean, we can't do better than that. How does it feel to be a grandma? Tell me about the grandma life.
I mean, you just said it. There really isn't anything better, right? Sammy's 2 now, and we just had his birthday party here at our house where we were very, very excited to welcome lots of family and friends. And it's just really amazing to sit in a room and just look around and realize that everybody in that room was there for him, and just a really special kid, just sweet and loving. And my daughter Emily and her husband Ben are just doing such a great job of raising him. And especially as Christian parents, sometimes it can get really hard, but I think that they're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses who help and step in whenever they need it. But most of all, they're doing a great job on their own, and I couldn't be happier. I am Lula. That's my grandma name.
Okay.
Um, because I love hot sauce, and because of Cholula that just got shortened. And this weekend, funny enough, because he hasn't been able to really say Lula, he just calls me Little Little. And this weekend, finally, he started calling me Lula, and I don't know how I feel about that because it was so cute being called Little Little. And now, it's this bittersweet weekend. He's all grown up. He's 2, and he's calling me Lula. So here we are. And no, but it is amazing. It's my favorite thing in the whole wide world, and I would recommend it. Highly recommend it.
All right. For those of you listening to this podcast, I will buy the candy bar of your choice to the first person who greets Stacy McGhee as blah, 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 the next time you see her. So, Stacy, whomever that is, let me know.
I
And
I
then I'll
will.
reach
I
out
will.
to you, find out what your candy bar of preference is, and we'll make that happen.
I will report back for sure. Thanks for that, Rich.
Not a problem. So, as you were talking about the party, I was struck by that idea, that thought of everybody in the room, everybody at the party was there to celebrate Sammy,
Yeah.
to celebrate, what he has grown to become and what he is going to grow into again, parents and grandparents and great grandparents and aunts, uncles, friends, all the rest. And as I'm hearing you describe that, I couldn't help but also think, isn't that what we as Lutheran educators are trying to build in our classrooms each and every day?
Yes. Yes.
This whole concept of, I know it takes a village was a great phrase from many years ago, got politicized and all the rest, but um, this whole idea that we have a group of people as educators, as support staff, parents, pastors, all these people who are pouring into the children in their classrooms. As far as LCM is concerned, also the children who are in our classrooms and resource rooms, etc. That same premise is there. So let me ask you a question. Why is it then that it's so easy for us to celebrate those moments when it's a birthday party and it's family and those types of things, and oftentimes so difficult when it comes to celebrating the exact same concept in a classroom?
Yeah, I that's a really good comparison, and I'm really impressed that we came up with this because that was completely on the spot, and
The
that's
coffee
amazing.
is good this morning, so that's
Yeah,
I'm doing
yeah.
all of the coffee. Shout
Hey,
out to Tim
let it,
Hortons.
yeah, let it flow, Schumacher. This is great. Um, yeah, that's a really good question, and I think that in classrooms, I, you know, I'll challenge that and say in Lutheran school classrooms, I think we're doing a great job of that. That's what makes us so different and so great. Um, I think sometimes there's a stigma with kids, especially if they might have some kind of a learning challenge. They need to learn things maybe a slightly different way than the other kids in the classroom, and that makes them different. So we're worried about pointing out how they're different, and we're worried about calling attention to them. And, all of these things that I think that as adults we project on our kids and on our students, that really honestly, as a former teacher and principal myself, I got to see how kids are almost exactly the opposite of that. They thrive on that praise, they thrive on that attention. And as little attention seekers as they are, I think we both know that kids kids just desire attention in general, and we've seen it, right? Where a kid is not getting the positive reinforcement, is not getting the praise that they need in that kind of attention, so they act out because attention is attention. So
Mm.
whether it's good attention or bad attention, right? It's like press, right? Bad press, good press, it's still press. And I think the same thing is true for our kids. So if we give them that attention that they need and they desire, um, hey, let's make it positive attention. Let's make it so that they really feel supported and loved and accepted. And I'll use the word safe because, we talk a lot about safety in our classrooms, specifically, and rightly so, because of so much of the school shootings and violence that's happening in our world today. And I can't even imagine how students feel about making sure that they're going to school safe. And as parents, that's what we desire, is knowing that our students have a safe place to be. And for me, safety is all those things that I just mentioned, but it's also giving kids a safe place to land, a place where they feel accepted and loved and wanted, and where people are celebrating their differences and their similarities alike. And I think we do a really great job of that in Lutheran schools. And I love seeing it. I especially love seeing it for our Lutheran special education students who, as I mentioned before, might need a little bit different of an approach. So yeah, let's praise it up. Let's give them that attention that they need in a positive way.
And I think to kind of piggyback on that, that safety concept is again really important. Uh, and again, we talk about it from the kind of the top down, safety from the threat of potential school violence and safety from the threats of, domestic disputes and
Mhm.
those sorts of things. But I think sometimes just safety from the, for lack of a better term, rat race of a life that sometimes
Yes.
we live. I'm not as far down that grandparent scope as you are, and I'm in no rush at all. But that day will come when that day comes. But I am in the empty nest part of life, so I've recognized that the the scramble is not there in terms of chasing after volleyball games and basketball games and drama practice and working out well, I gotta get to work at this time and we got to share the car and those sorts of things. But even without children in the house, the schedule that I live, my wife and I live, is not a normal routine set. This is what we do every Tuesday because it's Tuesday.
Right.
There's really none of that. There's always something different. And I can't think of how that would work if I had young children in the household, elementary school aged kids in the household who really, in a lot of ways, need that routine, that regular schedule to have that sense of normalcy, to have that sense of understanding, and um, they can trust that this is how it works.
Yeah.
We come home and we have a snack and we do our homework and then we watch some TV and so on and so forth. So I think our schools provide that for kids even if it's not like a bad situation, it could be a really good, solid Christian household, but just because life is so different, so varied, so unique day to day, I think that's another level of safety that our schools and our classrooms can provide. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like that you use the word trust because I think, that's kind of where I'm going with this is our students really, as we all know as educators, students thrive on structure. And the more structure you can provide a student, whether that's in the classroom or at home, the better because it's predictable, it's comfortable. There's comfort in that predictability. And when you can trust that that's the schedule and I know what comes next and I know what we're going to be doing with whomever is involved. I think that's a big deal. And in our classrooms across the country in Lutheran schools, I think we're doing a great job of connecting. And I think that's exactly what we're saying when we're talking about making that connection is having that trust. And I mean, when I think back, as you were talking before, and I was thinking back to the teachers that I pop up in my head as like my best teachers. That's exactly what it was. It was I trusted them. I trusted that they were going to educate me on something, but I also trusted that they understood me, that they just got me in a way that the other teachers didn't. And so we were able to make that connection because I trusted them and felt secure enough that I could be myself and that just creates a situation where we can all thrive. So, yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with everything that you just said.
We're talking with Stacy McGhee, President and CEO of Lutheran Special Education Ministries on Lutheran Education Podcast. So, Stacy, we've been at this for a while. I think I'm a little older than you, but uh, been at this for a while. When you started out, again, if I recall correctly, early childhood education was the thrust. You were going to be a teacher of the younger students.
Opposite,
Opposite.
opposite. I was trained to be a middle school teacher, actually. And that's really where my love, I mean, still is. I love middle schoolers, which I know makes a lot of people cringe.
Mhm.
But it was not until after I had my second child, my son Jacob, um, that I was given the opportunity. I went back to my principal and said I would really like the opportunity to teach part-time once I, give birth to my son. And the only option that was available to do that was he asked me to start a preschool. And I don't know what in the world he was thinking because I had zero experience with um, preschool, early childhood. I had been a middle school teacher my career up to that point. And so I did. I will admit I did not know anything about early childhood. I actually went and I visited many different programs in the Detroit metro area. One that I can think of specifically, Shirley Schwecke. went to visit her classroom, and I just soaked it all in. As much as I could learn from these area preschools, and then I just applied that to what I was going to do in my classroom. And I thank those ladies because they really guided me at a time that I needed it. And then I became from there preschool. I was preschool director there, and then became the director of school ministries at my next church and school, and that made me the school principal and the early childhood director in one. So yeah, that was really what I did. But most of my years I spent being a middle school teacher. So I kind of did it all. I know a lot of teachers, early L teachers who will say, "Ugh, middle school, don't give me those kids." And then the middle school teachers who are like, don't put me with the ankle biters. And
Mhm.
I just loved them all. None of those levels really scared me. I just looked at it as a really awesome opportunity to understand and meet kids, of all different ages. So yeah, really fascinating career for me for sure.
All right, so that's cool, Stacy. I learned something about you today. I don't think I ever really realized or connected that you had started at middle school. So I
Hmm.
can put that in the category that I've learned something today. Check that off the list. But to get to the question where I was driving it with that is, again, we've been doing this a while, and when we started out back with those beginnings, the idea that someday you would be the president and CEO of a 153-year-old ministry that's serving schools around the world, probably nowhere in the crosshairs of what you were thinking. Uh, I don't want to talk about necessarily, how life changes over the course of time and that, but I guess let me ask this question of you. So, if there's a younger teacher, a newer teacher out there who's just started out a few years into their ministry, based on the journey you've taken, what sort of advice might you give to someone who's just starting out, who is starting to kind of get their feet wet and figuring out some things? Just what is it like to have that ministry life when it comes to serving and the possibilities of serving in ways perhaps that you never dreamt you would as you got started?
Wow. Um, I think the first thing I would say is don't give up. Don't quit. Um, I actually have this that tattooed on my arm. Uh, uh, a note that my grandfather left to my grandmother before he died that it just says, "We do not give up." And that is really with the Bible verse of Second Corinthians 4:16 and 18. And I think that was a really big thing when I first started. I just got into it and I thought, wow, my first call was to a rural school in Michigan, and it was a fifth grade teaching position. And I literally remember standing in my room and thinking, I don't know that I can do this for the rest of my life. I was staring down another 30, 40, 50 years as a classroom teacher, and I had a restless spirit already in the beginning. But it was hard. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I really always felt like I was born to be a teacher. I couldn't wait until I had my own classroom. And then I got that dream, and it was amazing in so many ways, but in so many others, it was so scary and the opposite of what I thought it was going to be. And parents that were coming for me, and students that were difficult, and schedule that was difficult to keep up. And I was newly married, and, so many different things that I felt like I was juggling back then. Um, but I just I wanted to give up. I really did. I just started thinking already in that first, second year, like, why am I doing this? And I guess my encouragement would be to not give up. Stick with it. There's reward to it. And another piece of advice along that same line is that first year I just pulled a manila folder out of my desk, and I took a Sharpie and wrote at the top of it, "This is why." And my first note that I got from a parent that was really positive, uh, I had that note and I wanted to hold on to it. I didn't know why exactly, but I didn't want to get rid of it. And so I put it in the This Is Why folder. And I still to this day have the This Is Why folder in my desk at work. And anytime I get a a positive encouragement, I just stick it in there. And then on those days where I feel like I want to give up, I pull out that This Is Why folder and I just look at it and I remind myself of, you know, why am I here? And really it's for the kids, for the students that we serve. But there's so many other things that complicate that sometimes you do need to be reminded. So yeah, I think, first of all, don't give up. Second of all, I knew as however old I was at the time, 22 years old, I knew at that age that there was more to this. And this is not a knock on anyone who has spent their career in a classroom because that's amazing. And obviously we need tons and tons of people who will do that. But from that very first year, as I looked around the classroom, it wasn't there's no way I'm doing this for the rest of my life. It was like I said, that restless spirit in me that said, I think I want to do something different. I do want to try to be a leader. I do want to make an impact outside of this classroom. And then, it wasn't too long after that, quite honestly, I became a principal very early in my career. And, it was only like 6 years in, and I became a principal. And even then, I would say to a young principal, same advice, don't give up. Keep reminding yourself of why you're doing this. And I know that a lot of principals are struggling to get through those first few years as well. And my advice for that is, the This Is Why folder still applies. And those notes that you get are probably fewer and far between. But they still come, and there are still people who love you and support you. So keep leaning on them. But more than anything, my advice, and I know you would agree with me, Rich, because this is how we met really, is attend the meetings, attend the conferences, get that support from people who understand the island that you're on. And this, the same is true like with our special educators. Attend the meetings, attend the conferences, go out there, meet people who are like you. When we were principals, there were always a few principals who would not come to the meeting because they were so busy. And that always kind of offended me because it made me feel like their busy was more important than my busy. Um, but I think, as busy as we all are, and we can definitely lean on that as an excuse or sometimes even a reason. It's, there's reasons and there's excuses, and sometimes that's a good reason. I'll let people off the hook. I'm not that Scroogey, but I think there's value in coming together. And, I learned that quickly, early on in my time as being a principal, and at the time it was all men. It was all men in my circuit. And it really was because of those men that I did not quit. And I mean, quit ministry, not just like quit that school or being a principal or whatever. So, I'm being very vulnerable in saying that in almost 30 years of ministry here now, there have been moments where I've wondered, am I cut out for this? Is this really my future? God, is this where you would have me? Has that time run out? Do you want me doing something else? And time again, he refreshes and renews me to know that, yes, I am exactly where he wants me, for such a time as this.
Yeah, I think there are some people out there who land in that perfect spot right from the beginning, and
Hmm.
that just becomes the right place for them, and they're able to do, 40 years in one spot. It doesn't seem that
Hmm.
often anymore, but there are some people who just have that confidence. Uh, I love what you said in terms of, again, the not giving up, because I think, especially with younger students or younger teachers, I should say, the reason why you're thinking about that giving up is an important piece. Is the Holy Spirit pressing upon your soul that it's time for you to go someplace else because they have a ministry opportunity, or God has foreseen where He's wanting to use you next? You've learned and grown what you need to learn and what you needed to grow in that area, and so now it's time to move on to the next thing? Or did that one parent just light you up in such a way that you just don't
Right.
feel? Did you get that one class that just has the right blend of personalities that you're just, pulling your hair out by the fistful? Because
Hmm.
there's a right reason and a wrong reason to want to leave. And not to say that God can't do good, even if the motivation is wrong. I mean, bring
Sure.
bring in Jonah, and we'll talk about that. But when we recognize these are the times where God is leading us, it's important for us to hear and follow. And these are the times where I'm just a little too much in my feels, and
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
just rely upon God, know that, hey, the Spirit's there, and I'm here for a reason. And this one incident or this one period of time, this 1 year with this class or whatever, that's
Right.
not the ministry defining moment. And what am I supposed to pull out of that? What am I supposed to learn? What are the slivers that I'm supposed to
Hmm.
take out of this huge log of problem that are going to help me with the next step that I take?
Yeah, and speaking of Jonah, because I've had plenty of those moments in my career. First of all, I never aspired to be a principal. I didn't stand in that fifth grade classroom thinking, you know what, I don't want to be here. I want to be in that. Quite the opposite, honestly. I looked at principals and saw what they had to do in the evenings and, with parents and all of that, and I said, no, thanks. In fact, when I was asked if I would consider being a principal, it was an interim position at the school that I was at. And famously, my response was a not very nice heck no, but it didn't come out exactly that way. But I'll be polite on the podcast because I saw what principals went through. I saw that I didn't really want that. I was a young mom, and that really, I didn't feel like it was in the cards for me. But again, like Jonah, God said, too bad, I'm gonna swallow you up and you're gonna do the work that I've placed in front of you. And I reluctantly did. But that path put me on the path to where I am now. And so, I think that there are, looking back on those moments in my life and in my career and in life in general, those times where I wanted to run like Jonah did, that didn't have anything to, like, I was in great schools. This is no knock on the schools that I was in or the parents that I worked with or the students that I had, because by and large, they were all amazing. And I had a way enough support on the good side to way outweigh the bad. But my human brain and the feelings, like you said, came in and started making me think that, for my own reasons, maybe I was trying to convince myself that, I don't really think that this is where God wants me. But he definitely has a way of putting you on that path. And so I think, that's the big thing. It's just, you might as well stop kicking and fighting because he's gonna take you where he needs you, no matter the amount of kicking and screaming that you're doing. So lean into it. Enjoy the ride because he's really got you on the right path. Trust that.
And that sounds like as good a spot as any to take a break here. We'll pick this conversation back up. We're talking with Stacy McGhee, President, CEO of LSEM, on the Lutheran Education Podcast, brought to you by Lutheran Special Education Ministries.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear today, please consider sharing our podcast with friends and colleagues in the industry. Again, thank you for listening to the Lutheran Education Podcast.
And welcome back to the Lutheran Education Podcast, brought to you by LSEM. Stacy McGhee, President, CEO, Grandma Extraordinaire, and golfer. extraordinaire joining us on the podcast. Had the 20th annual LSEM golf outing recently. Stacy, how'd you swing them?
My team was great. Absolutely great. I think we finished 15 under. Now that sounds really amazing. But the LSEM golf outing, we use these licorice strips that get us a little closer to the pin on a few strokes. So, yeah, my team was great and just a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun. Um, Great to get out there. It was a beautiful day and always a nice way to finish up the season for me is getting out there usually that one last time.
Yeah, I sat in the clubhouse the entire day not golfing, and I finished 6 under. So I totally get what you mean about the licorice and the benefits that come from it. But
Yes.
all right, so as president and CEO of an organization like LSEM, and clearly a lot of similarities, but a lot of very big differences between being a classroom teacher, a preschool director, a principal in an elementary school. Is there one or two things that you're doing now as a president CEO that you just kind of step back every now and again and say to yourself, "Whoa, this is so cool that I get to do this." And again, I would never have had this opportunity to do this sort of thing had I just continued on the track as a building administrator.
Yeah, I mean, I really love being able to travel and spend time at our partner schools. I love being able to, I mean, Rich, I know you can relate to this. We travel quite a bit. We stand at exhibit tables at conferences, teachers conferences, administrators conferences. We're trying to share the services that we can provide to Lutheran schools. And there's always this moment. There's at least one at every conference, some more than others, depending on the area where we're exhibiting. But there's always this one moment where there's somebody who has never heard of Lutheran Special Education Ministries who comes up to our table, who sees the name, and you can see the look on their face as they're squinting and reading, and then they look at the banner and they look a little bit at our publications, and then they very hesitantly walk up to the table and they say, I have a student who, and then they describe a specific student who's struggling, and they say, I've been really struggling to get through to this student. What would I do in this situation? And then we share a little bit, and then we share about how we can help them even more. And you see this look just change on them, this look of trepidation to begin with, and then this look of relief, and then all of a sudden this look of excitement of, not only, oh, thank you, you provided this answer that I needed, but oh my gosh, you can do that too. You can do so much more. There are things that you can do in my classroom, in my school. Oh my gosh, let me run and get my principal or whatever. And for us, we're more than happy. We're so excited when those teachers come back with their principals and they say, you got to hear about this. Listen to what they could do. And so just seeing it from that very hesitant teacher approaching the table all the way through, you know, um, putting our first teacher into their school, the road that we go down with people on that is just amazing. And I, sit here with goosebumps this morning just thinking about it as I'm saying it, knowing that, next week, the week after, we're going to be on the road. We're going to be experiencing this and doing that, and the energy that that provides to us, and just the excitement that we have to, um, really enable more students to be in Lutheran schools at a time when they really, really need us. And I just love that moment. I love being able to share solutions with people, that and it does exactly that. It encourages more families to be able to be in Lutheran schools. That's really what we do, right? We say this all the time is parents have choices that they have to make. And sometimes parents have to choose when they have a special education student, they have to choose, do we send them to the public school where they get the services they need? Do we keep them at the Christian school where they're going to get the Christian education that we desire? And Lutheran Special Education Ministries comes in and we connect the two so that parents don't have to make an either or decision, but they're able to keep their child in the Lutheran school, getting that Christian education, and also getting their child's special needs met. And we just love being able to bridge that gap for people. So that excitement and that little seed where it begins, and just being able to witness it growing is just amazing, and something that, I, I experienced a little bit on a smaller scale as a principal, because sometimes you'll be giving a tour to a family and they're feeling down, they haven't found their spot, and then they walk into your building and they just feel at home, and that look of relief comes over them, and you feel like, hey, we've really solved this for this family, and now this family can come in and be a part of our family. It's similar to that, but it's a little bit longer of a road, and just letting people know that we can help bring solutions for Lutheran schools is just a really, really special privilege that you and I get to do fairly often. It's amazing.
Now, one of the frustrations that sometimes comes up with a ministry like ours, and I will admit that I feel this from time to time, is obviously there is a business model that our ministry follows. It's a partnership-based relationship with the schools, and the schools are paying a fee to have the set amount of time to be able to provide the services. And again, with other businesses, like any business, there are costs that are involved with that, and that's always something that from year to year is a part of it. It feels like at times the business side of things kind of overshadows the ministry side of things when it comes to a group like ours. Because as much as folks want to look at it and say, well, this is a business relationship because you send me a contract, I sign it, you send me an invoice, I pay it, this is a ministry first and foremost. Again, you're a rostered worker. I'm a rostered worker. We have several of our teachers who, again, are sononically trained, rostered employees. And we don't ever look at it as strictly contracted third party sourcing out, like somebody, paying for janitorial services or anything like that.
Mhm.
How do we share and continue to impress upon our constituency this idea that LSM is more than just a business partner, but we are a partner in ministry to support not only what the school is doing in their Great Commission work, but to support what the church at large is doing when it comes to Great Commission work.
Well, I think, first of all, it's very easy to answer in that, you gave the example of the janitorial service. How many janitorial services are you're partnering with that will be doing the work alongside of you, that is kingdom work, in that you are teaching kids about the love of Jesus. So that makes it, the first thing right out of the gate, easy, right? Because we are a ministry. And the other thing is, and I know you use the term contract just for ease of conversation in this, but you and I both know that we don't, and we are very intentionally don't send out contracts. We send out what we call partnership agreements, where we are agreeing to be in partnership with each other. And as we all know, in a partnership, both parties are contributing to the arrangement, the relationship that you have. And so we are intentional in saying that, because, yeah, this isn't a contract where we just come in, we provide the services, and we come out. We're really getting in there. Our teachers become part of the fabric of the congregation and the school that they're serving. In a lot of cases, people don't even, building people who work in the building don't even realize that the LSEM teacher is not employed by the school, because our teachers do such a great job of assimilating with their congregations that they're a part of, and we love that. Um, so in that way, we want our partner schools to look at it as a partnership. LSEM is providing a service to us, but in return, we are also supporting the work that LSEM does so that we can continue doing it on and into the future for a long time. We've been doing this for 152 years. It's a model that's tried and true. But yeah, there is a business side to it because we have employees and our teachers need to get a paycheck for the services that they are providing. So that is fair in that the school, that is part of what they're contributing, is their portion of the fee, even though it doesn't cover the entire cost. But I think, when we look at it that way, as what are we providing to each other out of this partnership, I think we'll start to see it more as a ministry because we can see it similar to, how the work of the church is, where we're always serving each other in different ways and looking for ways to serve each other and support each other, for kingdom's sake, really, not for LSEM's bottom line sake or the school's bottom line sake. And, I think by and large, I mean, our principals all get that and our pastors all get that. And the partnerships that we've been able to create and the things that we've been able to do for them, but they've also been able to do for us, have been outstanding, which is why we're here in our 153rd year of, doing God's work together.
We're talking with Stacy McGhee, President and CEO of LSEM. Lots of things changing in the landscape of non-public school education around the country. Uh, we are 5 years and counting past the beginning of the COVID pandemic and the 2 week, give or take a few years, shutdown and all the different things that came about with that. EAMS funding and so many other different programs that came out and about, and then the second round of EAMS funding, and in some states the third, and et cetera. It was a lot to kind of manage and wrap heads around in a very short amount of time. So if there was ever an example of drinking from the fire hose,
Mm,
EAMS and all of that was part of it. And
mhm,
allow me to go on record as I set up this question to say to all those people at our schools and at the state level and whatnot who were handed this and given zero time to make it effective and have to put together programs that didn't exist weeks before and then manage them for years. Kudos to everybody for the work that was done. So
mhm.
many hundreds and thousands of people doing all of that, just phenomenal. As we move past that, we see a changing landscape when it comes to educational funding. ESAs are becoming more and more prevalent around the country. Texas this year just passed legislation to start some pretty impactful ESAs in their state with the 26-27 school year. Over $1 billion earmarked to go to families to have these educational savings accounts to be able to use to help provide services for their kids. Now, not every state's different. Every state's going to manage it. And some states, they're going to this in droves. Other states, it's going to be a very, very slow process if they ever get there. How does LSEM as a ministry partner help schools when it comes to these sorts of things? Again, there's a lot of questions to be asked. There's a lot of benefit that can come in there. Some schools want to jump right in. Some schools are very cautious about anything dealing with federal or state funds. How does LSEM as a partner assist schools who might be considering utilizing those types of funds when it comes to serving their students?
Yeah, so we have a culture at LSEM where we say yes first. We jump in, we figure things out. We may not be the final answer for people, but we take pride in helping to point them in the right direction, of where they can get an answer. And I think, Eames was a great example of this, where we find out that this thing that's starting, this emergency assistance for non-public schools, Rich finds out about it first, I think, and then, similar to the PPP loan and all the other programs that came out during COVID, you hear about it, you do the double take of, is this for real? Are we really doing this? And then what happens? Then the webinars start and all the different organizations that are, trying to give you information on how it's going to come out. And then, oh, 2 days later, guidance has changed and now we
Mhm.
have to change again. And then, oh, 2 days after that, new guidance came out and now we've got to fit it in under this. And we, as you said, drank from the fire hose on that, but we committed very early on to becoming experts in this, becoming really in the thick of it, in understanding every element of it, so that when our partner schools come to us and say, have you heard about this Eanes thing? That we could say, yes, in fact, let us tell you more about it. And, Rich, I really have to hand it to you because you were that guy for us within our staff who really jumped in head first without knowing how deep the water was and bumped your head a little bit a few times because things changed and he really took it on the chin for us. But I think by and large, when we find out about these things, and Texas is another great example of that, we found out that it was happening. Our good friend, district at exec down in Texas, Dr. Bill Hins, called and just said, hey, let's talk about how LSEM can be an answer for this when the ESAs, when they start. Let's stay a step ahead of it if we can. We thank him for that, and we thank Texas District for the assistance they're providing to their schools and allowing us to partner with them to provide those services. But I think that's the thing, and admittedly, we can't stay on top of every single state and every single program that comes out as it's coming out. So, admittedly, there are some programs that have come out where our schools are a little ahead of the curve on us on that and understanding what is happening in their state. But I think our commitment to understanding each one of those funding sources and then working with them, because everyone is so different and how we are allowed to bill and the back office nightmare that is that we've put some of our workers through in determining, in one state we can bill ahead for services that will be provided for the entire year, and then in other cases, we're billing in arrears down to the hour that our teachers have worked. So a lot of the systems that we've put into place and a lot of the new software that we've put into place to try to manage this is really for the benefit of our schools. And as a display of our commitment to understanding these things and then helping our schools utilize them, understand them, walk them through it. Because, like you said, there is some, I see some principals side eyeing, the wait, we could get this completely paid for. How? We partner with DAST Consulting, who helps navigate that even further if there's a school that wants to understand some funding that might be available to them in their state. So we've got a lot of tools at our disposal, and we just love it when people call us and say, we've heard of this thing, or have you heard of anything? Are there any sources that you have, resources that you have that could help us? We really want this program. We're not sure how to pay for it. So our commitment to helping our partners figure that out, I think, is one of the things that makes us really special, and we're going to continue to do that. So, call us. We'll help you figure it out. And if we don't know, we're going to say yes, and we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together, and just think you may be inspiring other schools in your area or in your state to follow suit. So be brave and be a pioneer with us.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the things that I've always said about Lutheran schools is that a student coming in may have a unique set of needs, and in some cases, those needs become very challenging. But uh, I can't think of a time where a Lutheran school and the teaching staff and folks there didn't do everything they possibly could to make a
Right.
situation work. And
Yep.
again, sometimes it just doesn't. But teachers will bend over backwards to do what it takes to
Mhm.
be able to aid and assist and support a family who wants a child in a Lutheran school to have all of the benefits that that come from that. And really, if you think about it, that's who we are. That's who our ministry has been since they changed us from an orphanage to the Lutheran School for the Deaf,
Yeah.
152 years ago. So that's part of what it's in our makeup to be able to say, what do we need to do to be able to make sure that this child gets the Christian education in a Lutheran school setting that the family desires them to have? And so I would echo that too. If there's a program in your state or your area that maybe we haven't heard of, it's not that we can't work with it, it's just that we hadn't heard of it yet. But once it's brought to our attention, we'll
Hmm.
do our due diligence, we'll do the research, we'll figure out how we can make that work, and that includes existing programs like Title. Title One supports a number of schools around the country, some of them for a portion of their program, some of it, it's the entirety of their program that they're using the title dollars for. And in all of those programs, there are only two schools that have a similarly structured program. It's because those two schools are in the same public school district. And so we have to follow the same rules for both. Otherwise, every district handles it differently than any other district. So we have adapted, we have accepted that what works for this school in Indiana is going to be different from the school in Minnesota, different from the school in Texas, and we're willing to meet those districts where they're at, with the sole purpose being, how do we help the Lutheran school be able to maximize the benefit that they're receiving from those funds to be able to utilize them through us. So yeah, it's a unique and outstanding way for us to be able to again further that ministry and to again further the kingdom ministry work that our schools are engaged in each day.
Yeah, especially because as a former principal, I know how many things I had to, familiarize myself with. And becoming an expert in all of this funding is not going to be high on the list of a lot of principals to become experts in. So it's just another way that we partner with a school is to say, hey, principal, we got your back. We'll figure this out for you. And that trust factor comes in because the principal knows, we're going to get to the bottom of it for them. And all they're going to have to do is, we'll make it as easy as possible for them. So I do love that we can provide those services to people and would love to continue to learn more, about the different programs that are coming up because, like you said, it's definitely a changing landscape, and lots of states are coming up with some really great funding sources for education in their states. So that's outstanding.
All right, so as we wrap up here with Stacy McGhee, President and CEO of LSEM, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you, put you on the spot just a little bit. Um, so, as a way of kind of giving a shout out or an attaboy and attagirl to someone, uh, two-part question. So, we're going to be looking for two names here from you. The first being, is there someone in your ministry past who you look at and say, this person was the mentor, was the encourager, was the rock that you
Mhm.
were able to rely upon to keep you going, to get you where it is that you are today, that person that you would want to give that thank you to? And then is there somebody out there, and again, this is probably the more difficult one, somebody out there who you admire that you have seen in ministry work over the course of your career that you find yourself, when I grow up someday, I want to be like them and hope that I can achieve that point there. So again, putting you on the
Mhm.
spot
Mhm.
and putting asking you a difficult, if not impossible, question. But I don't get to do that often as a subordinate. So in this realm, I get to put you on the spot. So again, and you don't have to answer it. Obviously, you can take the diplomatic route if you want to. But as we finish up those two questions, that person that got you started, and that person that you aspire to be like.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll take it all the way back to the very beginning because I could sit here. I mean, I'm a really big believer in God sending you the right people in the different seasons of your life, right? So I could probably name someone from every season of my life and how they got me through it. And, just way too many to list. And I would feel really bad about leaving somebody out of that list. But so I'll go back all the way to my junior year in high school. And I was an office aide 1 hour, and my responsibility as an office aide was to assist Mike Unger. He was a teacher and athletic director at Lutheran High Westland in here in Michigan. And I mean, Mr. Unger doesn't even know this. I don't think that I've ever, I feel like I've talked to him about it and he has, downplayed it as Mike Unger would. But I just remember standing in one of the, places in the locker room where we were in that hour, we were filling up styrofoam cups with water because back when I was in high school, that's how you did an ice pack
Hmm.
was you just got a styrofoam cup that was frozen with water, and as that ice melted, that watery mess, yes, you just kind of massaged it over that calf or whatever that was hurt, right? So all of us athletes just used ice in a styrofoam cup. And so Mike and I would just stand back there every day, just refilling styrofoam cups with water and putting them, into the freezer, lining them up. And, it takes some time. And we would do that, a couple times a week. And so while we would stand there, he would just talk to me. And he talked to me like I was, like I mattered, like I was going to be somebody, and just believed in me at a level that I probably just really needed in the moment. And in those small talks, he encouraged me to go into Lutheran education. And even more than that, he encouraged me to be an administrator, which wasn't even on my radar at the moment. And so he just said, I think you've got this in you. You really should keep your heart open to that in the future. And those words just continued to ring through over the years, and now here I am. So thank you to Mike Unger. I doubt he's going to listen to this, but maybe one of his kids or daughter-in-law or whomever will listen, and will let him know. And I promise that the next time I see Mike, I will be very explicit in saying the words exactly and not just beating around the bush. But so many teachers at Lutheran High Westland who are just amazing, amazing. I really credit my career to many of them and their encouragement. As far as somebody that I'd love to be when I grow up someday, um, it's interesting because this person is on the back side of their career now, and I would say that that's Rachel Klitzing. Rachel just retired as the district ed exec out in the Pacific Southwest district. And I think that anybody who knows Rachel, which is about everybody, just knows what an outstanding, humble servant she has been over the course of her career, and just the outstanding work that she has done, to the degree that everyone who knows her respects her, loves the work that she's done, and would basically be clamoring to work with and for her. So, it's not to say that, you know, Rachel herself would say, "Oh, I'm not perfect," and no, 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 she would downplay it. But that's part of what I just love about Rachel, and just she makes you feel like she's got all the time in the world for you. She's never trying to hurry you along to the next thing. She's always, approaching with arms wide open, and just the inspiration that she's been to me. Again, I mean, I've told her, but she downplays it. So um, you know, without her inspiration, even from afar, there probably have been times that I might have wanted to give up. And in fact, I remember sitting in a restaurant with her out in California one year where she gave me time during a conference that she was hosting, but still gave me time to have lunch with me and encourage me at a time when I was considering leaving ministry. And she alone really talked me out of that. And I just really appreciate and love Rachel for doing that, and credit her for why I'm here today. So two really, really just pillars in the Lutheran education world. And if you don't know either of them, um, really shout out to them for more than just me. I'm just being the voice for, thousands of people who feel the same way.
Appreciate you sharing that. And again, what I would encourage all those folks out there, if you came up with answers to that question for yourself as you were listening to Stacy's response, do like Stacy did, figure out a way to share that information with them. Drop them a note, shoot them an email. If you see them at a conference, take them aside and just say that. Help them to fill that why I do this envelope that might be sitting in their desk, and you never know, that might be exactly what they needed on that particular day, because maybe this is their year with that class, that parent, that whatever going on.
Exactly. Yes. Amen to that.
Stacy, we could do this all day, but my boss really wants me to get back to work, so I should probably wrap this up. But thank you so much again. Appreciate you always taking the time to be able to hop on, just discuss these things and just talk about ministry. It's a blessing to be able to serve with you and to serve here at LSEM. Thank you for the work that you're doing. So much of it behind the scenes that folks don't ever get to see, but what you do allows a lot of people to be able to do what they're doing, and is making such a tremendous ministry impact around the world. So thank you for all that and for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, we're going to be at a lot of conferences coming up here. If you're at a conference, come find us. Come say hi. Come say hi to Lula. And then if we're not there, then you need to, send us a message and say, you guys need to get to this conference, and we'll make every effort to be there. We want to meet as many of you as possible. So come find us. We'll be there. Can't wait to see you. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. And thank you all for tuning in again. We definitely appreciate your listening to the podcast. Continue to like and share the podcast with others that you feel would also benefit from these episodes. If you have ideas for future episodes, don't hesitate to shout us out, send us a line. We'll be happy to talk to any of those folks that would help you be better at doing the work you're doing in the ministry field. So again, on behalf of Stacy, thank you for your time today, and thank you for listening to the Lutheran Education Podcast, brought to you by Lutheran Special Education Ministries.
Thank you for listening. We'll meet you again in 2 weeks for the Lutheran Education Podcast. For more information about LSEM, go to our website at luthsped.org. You can follow us on X by going to www.x.com/LSEM1873, or on Facebook at facebook.com/LSEM1873. If you're on Instagram, you can find us by going to @LSEM1873. We'll meet you again in 2 weeks for the Lutheran Education Podcast. Did you enjoy today's podcast? Want to help get the word out? Please leave us a review on the app you're using to listen today.